This is the most detailed drawing I've ever created, and somebody has just bought it. But it gets even crazier because the exact same collector has also bought my original drawing of the LEGO T-Rex. So in this video, I'm going to be walking you through the entire process of preparing both of these artworks ready to send to my collector who is in the US, so that they will hopefully arrive safely. And whether or not they do, we'll find out towards the end of the video. So before I can actually even think about packaging these artworks up, I need to sort out all the bonuses that each of the pieces comes with. And the very first bonus that I'm going to be looking at, or sorting out, is the owner's handbook. Now this is something I first did with my drawing of the LEGO Ecto 1, and I just love the concept of it so much that I now do it with every single one of my original drawings. So you can see here that it's quite a short booklet, but it just contains loads of progress photos of creating the piece, so that as a collector you can have the piece in front of you and then you can almost like immerse yourself in the creation of the piece, because you can see like all the different stages I went through in order to create it, and this white space at the bottom is where I'm about to handwrite explanations about what I'm doing in each of the photographs. But in order to do this, I need to know what I'm going to write, so I draft up some paragraphs on my computer whilst watching the time-lapse that I made of the process of creating this drawing, that I include all these steps, but I also want to be nice and concise so that the paragraphs aren't too long, otherwise they won't fit in the boxes of the booklet. Then on a blank piece of paper, I do a draft run of each of the paragraphs so that I can get a really good sense of the size and space that each of the words occupies, so that when I go on to the actual booklet, I know exactly which words need to be on which line in order to fit within the boxes. And once I've drafted out each of the paragraphs, it's time to move on to the real thing. And as you can imagine, this is pretty nerve-wracking to do, because obviously the further I get into the booklet, the more that I'll have to redo if I do make a mistake. So it's really important here that I'm taking my time and maintaining full focus throughout, so that each of the words is definitely in the right place, is legible, and looks really cool and fancy. Then using a black pro marker, I sign the back to validate the fact that this is an official Tom Mothersole creation. And once I've finished the booklet for the bike, it's time to do the exact same thing for the T-Rex. And you may be wondering, why am I putting so much effort into something that I'm literally giving away for free with the artworks? And it's the fact that I have poured a lot into each of these pieces to ensure they are of the highest standard that I can possibly achieve using my skill sets as an artist. So it's really important that everything associated with that drawing is also of the highest quality that I can possibly make them as well. So there you go, 2 fully handwritten owner's handbooks. Now the next bonus that both of these pieces come with is the models that I referenced in order to create each of the pieces. So we have the LEGO T-Rex minifigure, and then we have the LEGO BMW M1000RR, but my collector actually wants to build this model himself, so what I'm going to do now is deconstruct it. And to do this, I head to the back of the instruction manual and basically just do it in reverse, taking the pieces off in the appropriate places so that I can still put them in the corresponding numbered bags, so that when my collector builds it, it is still a pleasant experience, as he won't have to rummage through a massive pile of pieces in order to find the pieces that he actually wants. And the best part about doing this is it gave me an opportunity to give my model a bit of a deep clean. Now, if you've ever tried to deconstruct a LEGO Technic set before, you'll know that it's actually quite tricky, because LEGO has loads of bolts in place that hold the model together, and you need to remove these bolts before removing other parts, or else you'll end up snapping things, which is obviously not what we want to do. So here you go, this is the BMW completely deconstructed and distributed to its appropriate bags. So let's actually move back on to the artworks. Now, both of these pieces come with certificates of authenticity, which are mounted to the backs of both of the frames. And these certificates state the title of the artwork, the size it was drawn at, the date it was completed, and the materials that I used on it. And of course, I sign these certificates as well. Now, on all of my original drawings, I use something called art glass, which is non-reflective. So you can see here on the bike, it's almost like it's not even there, so that you can appreciate all the details of the drawings without the interference of reflections. This glass is also UV resistant, which means the colors of the drawing will remain as bright as the day I finished it for years to come. Right, so it's now time to actually start packaging everything up, and I'm starting off with the bike by putting a cardboard sheet on the front of the glass. Then using a strip of masking tape, I attach the handwritten note to the front of the cardboard sheet, and to secure the owner's handbooks, I put them in a clear plastic sleeve, and then using a couple of strips of double-sided sellotape, I attach these to the front of the cardboard as well. And to ensure the cardboard stays in contact with the glass, I put some thick recycled bubble wrap on top of everything. And the reason that this is important is because the cardboard stops the glass from flexing, because it's the flexing that causes the glass to break. It was then time to flip the artwork over and then wrap the entire thing in some finer recycled bubble wrap. Now to hold everything together, I'm using this plastic wrap, and don't worry, I've checked, this is made of polyethylene, which is recyclable. And the good thing about this wrap is when you take it off, it doesn't damage the bubble wrap, so if my collector wants to transport these drawings anywhere, he can reuse the bubble wrap. So that is the first layer of protection done for the bike, so it's now time to do the exact same thing for the T-Rex. And once that's done, I can put them back to back and then use some more wrap in order to join them together. I then use a large roll of bubble wrap, which has larger bubbles than the finer bubbled wrap that's directly round the artworks. And what this does is it just provides another layer of protection, because it's really important that these artworks do not get damaged. Now obviously my collector's going to need to handle these artworks when they get to him, so I'm adding in some complementary cotton gloves. And I'm holding these in place using the box for the bike, which also has the LEGO T-Rex in. My dad then went about marking out all the dimensions to create a custom crate for these pieces. These sections then needed to be cut out by hand, which I started doing, but apparently my lines weren't very straight, so I got banished to the circular saw. And what I'm doing here is I'm cutting out the pillars that are going to hold the sides of the crate in place. It was then a case of marking out where each of these pillars needed to go, and then going around each of these rectangles and marking out where the screws needed to go. I then came in with a drill and drilled a hole in each of these places. And after flipping the board over, I went around each of the holes with something called a countersink, which creates these little craters for the head of these screws to sit in, so they sit nice and flat. Now in order to do the walls of the box, my dad clamped the pillars in the correct place along the side wall, and then I drilled a hole directly through the board into the center of the pillars, and then I used the countersink on each of these holes and then fixed everything together using a load of screws. But obviously a box has 4 walls, so I needed to repeat this exact same process for the other 3 walls. And once all the walls were constructed, we could put them where they needed to go and then hold them in place using a couple of screws underneath. We could then flip the box over and add the remaining screws. And for some added strength, I added some screws to every single corner of the box. And the last thing I need to do is the lid, so I drill some holes in it, countersink the holes, and then put some screws in halfway, ready to tighten them up once it's ready to seal. So just before I test whether or not this actually fits in the box, I just want to secure the actual bike to the artworks. And this is obviously so the box doesn't move around and literally destroy itself within the crate. And it was then time for the moment of truth. Will it all fit within the box? And the answer was yes. Now there was a slight gap on one side, so I just filled this in using some bubble wrap, and then I put some bubble wrap on top of the box, and then it was time to put the lid on. So what I want to do now is show the world that it's fragile by using some fragile tape and some stickers. Now in the past I have been a little bit excessive with my fragile tape and sticker usage, but I felt that here it was probably best to keep it quite minimal so it still looks nice and professional. I then mark the top as being the top, and then I also write heavy on it because this thing does have quite a bit of mass to it. And I also realized that this cannot be flipped, otherwise the frames will crush the Lego box, so I write this way up so that it stays this way up. So my next task is to figure out how much this parcel weighs, and to do this I'm going to use some scales. So I weigh myself as I am, so I'm about 70 kilos, and then I weigh myself whilst holding the box, and I am then 95 kilos, meaning that my package is 25 kilograms. I then put all the relevant information into UPS in order to get a shipping label. And if you're wondering how much it costs in order to send a massive crate like this all the way from the UK to the US, it's £220.27. So this is one heck of an expensive shipping label. I can then whack this label onto the box alongside some customs forms, and that is the box all ready to go. Right, so it's officially 12:46 on Monday the 3rd of November, and I've just handed over the crate to the UPS driver, and from what I can tell from when I bought the shipping label, it should arrive on Wednesday. So yeah, I'm gonna shut up now, and I'll speak with you on Wednesday. Now, it isn't actually Wednesday, but before I tell you what happened with the pieces, I just want to say that if you'd like to own any of my original drawings, you need to be part of my VIP Insiders, which you can join for free using the link down in the description. And then you can check out the exclusive page that I have for my originals on my website using, again, the link down in the description. So yeah, on to actually what happened with the pieces. So they were actually delayed until Thursday, but I'm pleased to say that they arrived in perfect condition, which is obviously really, really good. So again, if you'd like to own any of my originals, just check out all the links and information down in the description. And if you'd also like to see the videos that I made of the process of creating both of these drawings, you can using the videos that have appeared on screen right now. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I shall see you in the next video.